arrested again, for the third time. How is this still possible? Why could a stalker reach Jungkook's home again? And what does this say about South Korea's anti-stalking laws? How many warnings does it take before safety truly becomes protection? How many arrests are enough before prevention replaces reaction? And why, after the first incident, the second detention, and a restraining order request, did the same person still manage to stand in front of Jungkook's home for the third time, turning private space into a public crime scene once again? On January 5th, 2026, South Korea woke up to a headline that felt disturbingly familiar, yet heavier than before. A foreign fan. The same location, the same idol, and the same unanswered question echoing across social media, newsrooms, and fan communities worldwide. How did this happen again in Seoul's Yongsan district just before 3 in the afternoon on January 4th? Police arrested a 30-year-old Brazilian woman for violating South Korea's anti-stalking act after she caused a disturbance outside the private residence of Jungkook of BTS, born Jungkook. She threw letters. She hung photographs with written messages on the fence. She refused to disappear quietly. And with that, a third incident was officially recorded, transforming concern into outrage and anxiety into anger. This was no longer just a story about one stalker. It had become a story about systemic failure, legal limitations, celebrity vulnerability, and the uncomfortable truth behind the glamorous image of global stardom. Why was she there again? Why wasn't the situation permanently resolved after the first or second incident? And most importantly, if this could happen to Jungkook, arguably one of the most protected celebrities in the world, what does that mean for everyone else? The details are unsettling not because they are dramatic, but because they are repetitive, according to South Korean media reports. Police from Yongsan precinct responded swiftly after receiving reports of suspicious behavior outside Jungkook's home around 14:50 local time. When officers arrived, they found the woman actively engaging in behavior defined under the Anti-Stalking Act as persistent and disturbing contact. Items believed to be letters had been thrown onto the property, while photographs and written messages were displayed on the fence, transforming a private residence into a message board of obsession. This alone would have been alarming enough. But context changed everything. This woman was not new to authorities. She was not a first-time offender. She was not a misunderstood passerby. She was the same individual who, on December 13, 2025, had already been detained for residential intrusion after unlawfully entering a private area associated with Jungkook's home. That incident, at the time, sparked concern but also relief. Police had intervened quickly, and the situation seemed contained. Then came December 28, 2025, less than 2 weeks later. She reappeared. Same target, same fixation. This time, the violation fell directly under South Korea's Anti-Stalking Act. It was serious enough that Jungkook's side reportedly requested a restraining order, signaling that the pattern was no longer incidental but escalating. And yet, despite 2 previous police interventions, despite the involvement of legal mechanisms, despite the global attention that inevitably surrounds any threat to a BTS member, the third appearance still happened. By January 4th, 2026, patience had evaporated. The arrest triggered a wave of public reaction that was louder, sharper, and more emotional than before. On X, formerly Twitter, fans did not celebrate the arrest. They questioned it. Why wasn't she deported after the first or second time? One user wrote, a sentiment that would be echoed thousands of times across languages and time zones. When does he get to rest? Another asked, turning the narrative away from crime and toward exhaustion. Others expressed something more painful: guilt. We don't deserve Jungkook staying kind and open when his privacy keeps getting violated. One post read, capturing a collective heartbreak shared by fans who have watched him continue to interact warmly with the public despite repeated invasions of his personal life. This emotional response did not come from hysteria. It came from history. Jungkook, the youngest member of BTS, has long been a magnet for both admiration and obsession. As BTS rose from a South Korean boy group to a global cultural phenomenon, the lines between fandom, entitlement, and intrusion blurred dangerously for some individuals. While most fans respect boundaries, a small number cross them in ways that transform admiration into fixation. The irony is cruel. Jungkook has consistently been known for his warmth toward fans, his frequent live broadcasts, his openness, and his willingness to share moments of his life, even during periods of intense scrutiny. On December 15, 2025, just 2 days after the first stalking incident, he went live again, smiling, speaking gently, reassuring fans without directly addressing what had happened. That kindness, some argue, has been misinterpreted by those who refuse to recognize the difference between public persona and private life. But kindness is not consent. Accessibility is not an invitation. And fame should never cancel out the right to safety. The third arrest forced South Korea's anti-stalking laws into the spotlight in a way few cases have before. The Anti-Stalking Act, strengthened in recent years following public outcry over stalking-related crimes, allows police to intervene earlier than in the past. It defines stalking broadly, including repeated, unwanted contact, surveillance, and intimidation. On paper, it appears robust. In practice, this case exposed its limitations. One of the most pressing questions raised by the public was prevention. Why, after repeated violations, was the same individual still able to return to the exact same location? Why wasn't there a permanent restriction zone? Why did enforcement seem reactive rather than protective? Legal experts in South Korea have long pointed out that while restraining orders exist, their enforcement can be inconsistent. Violations often result in warnings or short-term detention rather than immediate detention or deportation, especially when the suspect is a foreign national without prior violent offenses. This legal gray area has now become impossible to ignore. The public anger was not directed solely at the individual arrested. It was directed at a system that appeared to prioritize procedural caution over personal safety. Fans asked whether it would take physical harm before action became irreversible. The silence from big hit music, BTS's agency, added another layer of tension. As of now, the agency has not released an official statement regarding the third arrest. This silence may be strategic, legal, or protective, but it left fans filling the void with speculation, fear, and frustration. In the absence of official reassurance, imagination runs unchecked. Is Jungkook safe right now? Has security been increased? Will this person be detained longer? Will there be legal consequences beyond another arrest headline? Police have not yet released detailed information about follow-up measures. That uncertainty has only amplified anxiety. The broader implications of this case extend far beyond Jungkook. Stalking is a pervasive issue in South Korea, affecting ordinary citizens as well as celebrities. In recent years, high-profile cases have pushed lawmakers to strengthen legal definitions and penalties. Yet enforcement often lags behind intent. Victims are frequently forced to endure repeated violations before meaningful protection is granted. When the victim is a global celebrity, the contradiction becomes stark. If someone with immense resources, security, and public attention can still be reached repeatedly, what chance does an ordinary person have? This is why the third arrest matters. Not because it happened, but because it should not have happened. The international dimension of the case adds further complexity. The suspect is a foreign national. Deportation laws, visa status, and international legal considerations all influence how such cases are handled. Yet public opinion has been clear. Repeated violations should trigger stronger consequences, regardless of nationality. Fans are not asking for vengeance. They are asking for boundaries to be enforced. At the heart of this story lies a painful paradox. K-pop thrives on closeness. Fan engagement is not a side effect. It is part of the industry's foundation. Idols are encouraged to connect, to communicate, to appear emotionally available. This intimacy fuels loyalty, but it also creates risk. Where's the line between connection and intrusion? Who draws it? And who enforces it when someone decides that the line does not apply to them? Jungkook's situation illustrates the cost of blurred boundaries. Every time he smiles on camera, someone may mistake it for permission. Every time he goes live, someone may believe they're entitled to more. This is not his failure. It is society's responsibility to ensure that admiration does not become access. BTS continues its group hiatus, with members focusing on solo projects and military service transitions. Jungkook, was expected to enjoy a period of relative normalcy. Instead, his private life has been repeatedly disrupted by the same threat, returning like an unanswered warning. The question now is unavoidable. What happens next? Will this third arrest finally trigger stronger legal action? Will authorities impose stricter measures to prevent any further upgun, any further proximity, any further risk? Or will the cycle continue, waiting for another headline, another arrest, another wave of outrage? Public trust is fragile. Each repetition erodes confidence not only in legal systems, but in the promise that safety is guaranteed. This case has already become a reference point in discussions about celebrity protection, stalking legislation, and the responsibilities of both fans and authorities. It has sparked conversations in legal forums, fandom spaces, and mainstream media alike. And still, the most haunting question remains unanswered. If this could happen 3 times, why should anyone believe it won't happen a 4th? Until that question is resolved with action rather than statements, with prevention rather than response, the story of Jungkook's stalker will not end with an arrest. It will linger as a warning, a failure, and a challenge to a system that must prove it can protect those who live under constant public gaze. For now, the fence outside Jungkook's home stands quiet again. The letters have been removed, the photos taken down. The woman is in custody, but the silence feels temporary, and the world is watching, waiting, and asking the same question over and over again. When will arrested again finally become never again? The silence after an arrest is often mistaken for resolution. But in cases like this, silence feels less like peace and more like the pause before another disturbance. After the 3rd arrest, after the police tape was removed and patrol cars disappeared from the narrow streets of Yongsan-gu, one truth remained impossible to ignore. Nothing about this situation feels finished, because if the law had truly worked, would we be here again? Behind closed doors, conversations are happening that the public cannot hear. Police are reviewing procedures. Legal teams are weighing options. Security protocols are being adjusted quietly, deliberately, away from cameras. Yet outside those rooms, the public narrative continues to grow louder, heavier, more urgent. Fans are no longer just reacting emotionally. They are questioning structure, authority, and accountability. What exactly does protection mean when it only activates after damage is done? South Korea's Anti-Stalking Act was introduced to prevent tragedies, not to document patterns after the fact. And yet, in this case, the law appears to have functioned like a revolving door. Arrest, release, return, arrest again. Each cycle increasing the sense of danger, each repetition amplifying public fear. This is why the 3rd arrest feels different. It is no longer shocking. It is infuriating. Legal analysts in Seoul have pointed out that restraining orders, while legally significant, are often limited in enforcement scope. They rely on compliance. They rely on deterrence. But what happens when deterrence fails? What happens when an individual demonstrates, repeatedly, that warnings do not work? The public is demanding an answer, not just for Jungkook, but for every victim whose safety depends on the assumption that laws are enough. There is also an uncomfortable question many hesitate to ask out loud. Did familiarity breed complacency? When incidents repeat without escalation and consequences, systems risk normalizing danger. The first time is a shock. The second time is a concern. The 3rd time becomes a pattern. Patterns are where tragedies begin. History offers too many examples of stalking cases dismissed as non-violent until violence occurred. That is the fear now gripping public discourse. Fans are not exaggerating when they ask how close is too close. They are remembering cases where warning signs were ignored, where escalation was predictable, and where regret came too late. Jungkook himself has said nothing publicly about the latest incident. His silence is understandable. Victims are not obligated to explain their trauma, nor to reassure the public. Yet that silence, combined with his known habit of shielding fans from worry, has only deepened concern. Is he being protected properly? Or is he protecting others from the reality of how serious this has become? Those close to the situation understand something that headlines often miss. Repeated stalking is not about attention. It is about fixation. And fixation does not fade simply because someone is arrested. The fact that the suspect is a foreign national has added another volatile layer to the debate. Online discussions have become increasingly blunt. Deportation is mentioned repeatedly, not out of xenophobia, but out of desperation.